I'm already asleep. That new intro music is so mellow compared to our last like pounding beat. What are we even thinking? We should just go back to the new one.
The old one or the new one? The old one.
I'm sorry. Yeah, wait. It was the one that I had labeled as new. That is the old one.
That's the old one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I don't know what.
I think we've exhausted this vein of conversation.
Okay. We have a special guest of episode 2, season 6 of Funny Not Funny with Jim and Lionel. Jonathan Wyner is here. He's from MWorks. He is a mastering engineer, and he has worked on 5,000 recordings, more than 5,000 recordings over his 40-year career, including James Taylor, David Bowie, Aerosmith, Kirite Kanawa, who I don't know, Amy Mann, Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, Pink Floyd, Josh Groban, Bruce Springsteen, Jim's Big Ego, and Nirvana. I welcome you to the studio, Jonathan Wyner. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's nice to be welcomed.
So I was asking you before, and then I stopped myself, kind of how your summer's been going. Anything interesting?
Yes. Interesting, but not comfortable. I've actually been, I'm blessed to have figured out that part of the compensation for being a teacher, being a professor, is that you get to not teach in the summer. For years and years, I thought I just couldn't, I needed to always stay plugged in. I think this fell out a little bit from when I was just purely freelance for all my income. So it's like, you always got to be ready and be present and show up. And so anyway, I taught one class over the summer, which has been sort of luxurious. And then on top of that, I played a bunch of tennis, which has been great. But I am currently consulting to a very large generative AI company.
Interesting.
And so that's why, the discomfort, and the discomfort is not, what people might initially sort of jump to is the notion of all of the sort of discussions around morals and ethics and the future of work and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
The discomfort is it's just bloody weird. There's a lot that's really challenging to kind of wrap your arms around when it comes to generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because it is a non-deterministic technology. In other words, you ask it to do something and you don't know exactly what you're going to get. And if you ask it to do it again, it's not going to do it again. I mean, it's like the artist in the studio who does a great vocal take, and you just want the third verse to have a little more something, and they give you something completely different.
Right. New lyrics.
I mean, it's not, but it's still that artist, right? It's still kind of connected to that. And so, and understanding how like data relates to the output and the behavior of these systems. I'm learning a ton. It's really interesting and it's really weird.
Wow. So AI is a little like Bob Dylan, I guess, in the studio.
I don't even know what to do with that. I mean, Dylan. Yeah. I mean, well, no, I think Dylan has got a little bit more of the sort of wild animal in him. I mean, Dylan sometimes would lash out. He would go places where there was no prompt that would have resulted in the response you get from Bob Dylan.
That's great. So you've been teaching at Berklee College of Music. I didn't know that they did stuff during the summer. Of course they would. I don't know why I thought they didn't, but and then do you also teach there during the year?
Oh yes. Well, that's been a big piece of what I've been doing increasingly over the last 20 years. So I teach I'm a full professor.
Oh, great.
At Berklee. So between that and, I've done a lot of work over the last, 20 years, also in and around the intersection of technology and music production. So that, there's the three pillars for me have been the creative work, primarily mastering, but other things, working with music tech, and then teaching. And they all sort of roll up into a single kind of interest in the interface between those things.
Yeah, I mean, my friend Dan Cantor is also, I think he might be, he's some sort
My
of
friend,
teacher there.
he's some sort of teacher. Yeah, he's my friend Dan Cantor too, and he's your drummer.
He's my drummer. Yes,
and he's also a professor at Berklee College of Music.
Yeah, he was.
Right.
I know he's been doing it since the pandemic and had to set up a whole remote studio thing. Was receiving tracks, and I actually got to see. I know Mark Simos was teaching songwriting, and I got to see an evening of topical songs, which not during this administration. So it was really, people were kind of on edge during that, and I won't say who I saw. But it was a really intense. It was an intense evening. I really didn't know what to expect from Berklee. It's kind of inspiring to watch the kids make stuff and create it and put it on. It's like they kind of they get a 10-year start on everybody else. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, can you really learn how to be like a songwriting folk singer at a college? And I saw this and I was like, oh, you can. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn and there's a lot of cool people that are teaching it, and you can, it is maybe a way to avoid being terrible for 10 years and then starting to produce decent material.
Yeah. Well, I think we all remember those days. The sort of the long learning curve, the long arc of self-development. I think part of what's driving what you were witnessing is that the level of sophistication that young people and the students come in with around the sort of picture of like what the persona is that they are trying to inhabit is much higher than it used to be. I think I think a lot of it is surface. I mean, you can be sophisticated in your language without necessarily having a depth of understanding about what you're talking about, and underlying thoughts and ideas. But like the way they present is so different.
We lost Lionel. He's having internet problems, so he may be coming in and out.
I
don't know what's causing it. He usually has a great connection, but he should be back. What do you think the cause? I mean, what do you think has caused that, inspired that? How is it that kids are kind of coming to this with a greater level of professionalism than they used to? I mean, obviously it's the internet, but the internet's been around. There's been YouTube for a while now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there has been an sort of an explosion, an exponential growth, I think, of social media and video sharing. And, I don't know at what point you became aware of whether it was reluctant or not, that like engaging in that activity in order to sort of be present in the world as an artist was a requirement.
Right.
But I think people were more or less slow to kind of come to that. But now it's not even a question. It's like, it's been accepted. They all know it. They all engage, and they're all watching.
Yeah.
They're watching each other. So I mean, it almost seems like too easy an answer, but I really think it's true.
No, it probably is YouTube. I mean, there's so many things you can learn. There's a lot of bad things you can learn on YouTube, music wise, but also a lot of great things. So you would be absorbing through your teenage years, just if that's your interest, just a ton of stuff that would never have been accessible to me. I mean, how does David Gilmour play, a lead? Now you just put in a query and you find it. And then, of course, add on top of that, whatever it is AI can do that, obviously play a lead like David Gilmour. I don't even know where to go. I don't even know where to go with that.
Then
I'm
you
not
get
sure
the
how
next
much
17. You get the next 17 David Gilmour videos. I mean, it immediately starts to serve up more of that thing, and so it's like exposure on what speed, heroin. I don't know what's the right drug reference here, but you get the point. There you go.
Yes,
that's right.
The old modern drug. It's back
That's
again.
a very timely reference, Jim. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. We've really lost Lionel. This is crazy. I wonder if his whole internet went down. So you said that you're working. You said you're working, and I don't know if there's anything you can't say about this, but you're working in AI, and I'm guessing with regards to music or
Oh, yeah.
technology and or technology.
Well, it is the
Yeah.
marriage of that, the collision of technology and music, and sort of the creative part of it. And as you, it will come as no surprise to you to know that one of the things I'm advising about and helping with is around the sound, the fidelity
Right.
of the systems, not just the quality of the sound of this, but also fidelity to the musical idea.
Fidelity. Fidelity to the musical idea. So
Yeah.
thematic
Yeah.
fidelity. Yeah.
Genre, expression, expressiveness, proportion, um, dynamism within the sort of musical development. I mean, there's
Hmm.
so many variables to think about what makes music interesting, and then how to bring that about, how to cause it to happen when you're not the performer.
Right. Well, that's yeah. So that's interesting. And I think one example I can think of is that I was driving one of Dan's interns home when I was in the studio at his place, or back to Berklee actually, and I asked if uh, I there he is again. Hey Lionel, I asked if they had heard Frank Sinatra singing "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and I put it on, kind of thinking that it would kind of blow their minds. But what they really focused on was like those strings sound all wrong.
Yeah, yes. Awesome. That's great.
And I was like, oh, bravo. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done, you. You know stuff.
Listening with your brain,
Mm-hmm.
and informed at that.
Oh,
Lionel, you seem so pixelated.
I
something is
switched.
up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I switched entire PCs. Something's going
Wow.
on. So hopefully this PC will act a little better. But maybe it's just my internet connection here. I can't imagine why. It's been super
Suddenly
steady.
it's very clear now. And then,
You
but
just said, yeah,
and you
you said the
snapped
magic
into
word.
place.
Okay. Well, here. Okay.
Actually, yeah, you're a lot sharper. Nope, now you're blurry again.
Yeah, something's going on with
I
my internet connection. So I'm just going to lurk in the background and not say much. Okay. So you
We were talking
guys.
about the Frank Sinatra "Smells Like Teen Spirit" song that you turned me on to. Um, we were talking about AI.
It was terrifying.
Yeah. Should we be terrified, Jonathan? I mean,
Oh, well, I need to unpack that word. I mean, terrifying. What is terrifying about it? First of all, I mean, it is a sort of it's a bad mashup. Like the two genres of experience really just don't belong in the same box at all, right?
right.
They really don't. And so, it's a little bit like I really don't like pineapple on pizza. It feels a little bit like that.
Okay.
Like the pineapple belongs in the fruit salad, and the pizza is the pizza. I mean, some people might, I could probably find a better, ice cream pizza. I don't know. Oh, clam chowder ice cream. That was the one thing
Ooh.
that, like, that's a little bit like what you're describing. Um,
I
so,
could.
and it's a little bit like a car wreck you can't turn away from.
Right.
Um, the only thing about it that I really think is terrifying. I mean, you got to admit it's kind of playful. It's kind of
Oh
goofy.
yeah.
But the thing that's really terrifying, and this is actually something that is entering our reality in leaps and bounds, and going to become, I think, more of a force, is the deep fake
Mm-hmm.
potential. Nobody really thought, obviously, that that was Sinatra singing, but we're seeing
Right.
examples of, you know, voicing fiction, sometimes maliciously using
Right.
somebody else's voice. Now
Mhm.
that part of the technology, that's terrifying.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
what is maybe more terrifying is that genuine videos used to show what's real will not be believed.
Mhm.
Yes. Right. Yeah. The way it undermines um, that, the sort of existential faith, right?
Yeah.
In what we
Yeah.
think we know. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, I think the trick with that video, or sorry, it wasn't a video, I think, or maybe it was a video, but I think it was just the audio. But I think the trick with that audio was, oh, Frank Sinatra covered "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Oh no, 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 he could not have. But you kind of go through that, and then you're like, oh, that's very clever, but it's also kind of scary because what's preventing there to be a 1975 Beatles album,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, with all new songs and
Yeah.
them singing.
Yes. I mean, one of in a way, as you're saying that, I'm a little bit grateful because it's presenting this phenomenon in a way that you actually wouldn't really be inclined to believe it. It's not just improbable; it's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
But it does point to the fact that that the kind of thing that it's doing is possible. So,
Right.
you know, you know what I mean. And so it's kind of putting us on alert.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
Yeah.
I'm um
Yeah.
I'm very conscious right now to build in a lot more loose hairs and sweat into my recordings. It's not going to be enough ultimately, but I was fighting Dan. I was like, I want a stereo mic in a room, and I want us all to play around it. He wouldn't let me do it,
Uh-huh.
but he's like, "But it'll sound terrible." I said, "It'll sound real," and that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want something to sound at least like, at least for now, it would not be generated by AI. Not that it couldn't be, but that nobody would choose to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, when you first started talking about that, the word that came to my mind is like it's a watermark that something is real. If you put in
right.
something that involves enough randomness or chaos or whatever it is, that's part of the signal that this was human made.
Right. Right. How do we indicate that it's made by humans? I mean, obviously, if it's generated by AI, there at least should be some kind of standard that says put a sticker on it, put an audio watermark on it, saying this is generated by AI.
I think there's broad agreement about that.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard anybody push back on that idea.
but it's not happening. I mean, I think it's starting to
It's not
happen on certain
legislated.
channels. Yeah, it's not regulated. Right, but couldn't it be done on a voluntary? I mean, I know it's all being made by kids, but couldn't I don't know. I don't know how you build that into the LLM, but it seems like that should be, if you're using free software to make something fake, it should just show up.
I don't know. I mean, if you're paying for it, you should still be thinking about doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And um, yeah, you know the story of the Velvet Sundown.
No,
That
Velvet
the
Sundown.
band. Yeah, they were a completely. This story came out in the last month or so. They're a completely made up band.
Right.
Um, the imagery, it was all fake. They looked like it kind of looked like a cross between like Nirvana and the Brady Bunch, like these, and it was like folk musicians, um,
Hmm.
but sort of modern rock folk. And then there were 10 songs on their record. It all was generated by AI,
Right.
and it started to get some buzz. I don't really understand what caused people to pay attention to it, but it as soon as people started to get the idea that it might be AI, it took off. This was on Spotify.
Right.
And the minute the story came out, and the guy who created this band said, "Yeah, it's all completely fictitious. None of it exists." Spotify then labeled it as AI music, but not until people became aware of it.
Are they still doing that? Is that still a practice? Because I know they are flooding the content now with self-generated AI music. I think to just sort of dilute the royalties that they pay out. That's what I've
Well,
heard.
there's some suspicion about that. I think the truth, so far as I understand it, is that less than 1% of the streams on Spotify are AI.
Huh.
So it is a very tiny sort of bit of the activity on Spotify at the moment. Not that that couldn't become a bigger deal. But yeah, I think people are, I don't know if you could find other examples that are relatable for you about this, but whenever we have something, I mean, this is a weird new thing in the world. We haven't seen anything like it,
Right.
exactly like it before, except maybe reading. Actually, I saw a Star Trek episode where there was the robot, and the robot was sort of talking about its creators. Anyways, like the tension between the humans and the robots. It was like an early expression of AI in the
Right.
media.
Yeah.
But what was I? Well, where was I going with that? My God, all I can see is this big robot.
Now we're into Star Trek, so we've gone right off the rails.
Right, I know.
Velvet Sundown.
Yeah, Velvet Sundown.
After that,
yeah.
Royalties. Spotify's
Spotify,
flooding it, and you said no. 1%. I don't think Spotify's flooding it. This is what I think the truth is.
You all are good.
Anyway,
it'll come back. Yes.
There's actually a better Star Trek episode.
Oh, that was it. I got it.
Yeah, good.
Printing. You were talking about printing or something like that.
Yes, reading.
No, I was talking about you.
Okay.
But remember a time when there was a new technology that you raise your eyebrows. You don't know anything about it, but people start saying this could be the end of everything.
Right.
And so the less you understand, the initial response is to pour all of our fears into it. So, when we sort of talk about it's going to take over Spotify and there won't be, musicians won't make any money from Spotify. And of course, there's the retort, which is, well, they're not making very much money from Spotify anyway. So what are we worried about? But, I think a lot of that is born out of, what the fear about what might happen. We're not there yet. So,
right. And we don't know, and you can't predict this stuff. Although, when MP3.com was out and when Napster was out, I made a point of when I was lucky enough to be on All Things Considered, they were like, do you really think this is going to mean that musicians won't be able to make any money? And I said, well, what's the resale value of an MP3?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's a used MP3 worth? You don't go to the record store and buy some used MP3s. So and I think that the people probably accurately say whatever the new technology is, it's going to undermine creatives because it almost always does. However, certain things like having drafting skills on a drawing table, there are still some people who do that, but that was something everyone in advertising and everyone in a creative department knew how to do. And working with like a waxer and putting type on the page manually. No, that's gone. That's probably good that that's gone. Come home with like sticky waxy fingers.
Like cutting tape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to throw something that feels a little bit like dynamite in here.
Do it.
My timeline might be a little bit inexact, but I'm going to say for the last 100 and something years, and this is specifically around certain kinds of art and not books, but images, music, and so on, we have attached a value of the intellectual property to the sort of new model, right?
Right.
Sort of reproduction, distribution, and the ownership of copyright.
Mm-hmm.
And that model didn't really exist. That idea didn't really exist before 1900.
Right.
Right. So we've had 125 years of this idea at play, which is not forever. It ain't nothing. And that's being called into question. Sort of thinking about the model that is, society. Maybe it's a way of society saying we're going to support art, so we're going to invent copyright because we think this is important. So maybe ultimately the thought experiment is, how do we reinvent this notion? But one of the things I feel very acutely is that there's pressure for us to do that and to sort of rethink the model. And I don't think this is just an AI-based thing. I think you pointing to MP3, that was certainly a salvo, file sharing. where there's not the tangible object anymore,
right?
That contains the thing that has obvious value. So you see where I'm going? So I think this is a big question.
But the model before then was Woolworth made all the money and the composer made no money, right? I mean, it was sold at Woolworth and the composer wasn't cut in. I'm talking about sheet music, back when it was sheet music sales that drove everything in music. And then the American Society of Composers and Performers was formed to make sure that the people who wrote the music got a little bit of money from the sale. And it might have been the copyright came after that, or it might have been before. And what do we do now? I mean, I'm reminded of Lawrence Lessig's work with Creative Commons. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it plays directly into AI's hands. Because if I put a CC on all of my work, and that basically also tells, it's now hard for me to say, you can't use this to train an LLM.
Yeah.
Because it is free to share non-commercially. And I'd have to prove that it's a commercial sale to put it in a training module. We're putting in a trading data set, training library, I guess someone would call it.
Yeah.
I don't know what emerges after this. I know that musicians and some other artists tend to be on the front line, the front line, literally, in the war of intellectual property. But it doesn't mean it doesn't come to get everybody else too eventually.
If you want to stick a dynamite, I mean, about around the time that I think it was 1999 was the heyday of Napster, and I think I was talking to Jim, and I think Jim sort of iterated what he just said. I asked him, I said, "What do you think this all means?" He said, "I think it just sort of blows away the notion that an artist can make any kind of money off of their recorded performances." And I was like, hardy, right. You're full of shit and stuff like that. And now I'm totally and absolutely convinced. My feeling about the Frank Sinatra singing Smells Like Teen Spirit is that recorded performances are dead. Because my personal feeling is I don't trust anything on the internet now. Every time I see a video on YouTube, I'm trying to figure out how they make this on an AI. And me personally, I just think, who knows what other people are going to do, but I'm totally uninterested in recorded music now, unless it's people that I know and labels I already know. But even then, I'm sort of drifting away from it, because the whole thing you said about, what you said about Frank Sinatra, it's not Frank Sinatra, and I know, and Jim knows, but what about a 15-year-old, somebody who's just growing up and listening to stuff for the first time, and they hear that? And they're like, yeah, it's Frank Sinatra. No, it's not. He never saying, oh, but I found all these people on the internet who told me that that's a legitimate recording, and that In the Wee Small Hours is actually an AI generated album. And this is the real album. This is the real Frank Sinatra album. How are you going to gainsay that? So this is my ultra position. My ultra position is the only music will be live performance. So,
I mean, it's an interesting. It occurs to me as you're saying that the real opportunity then is for us to come up with a bunch of things that we want people to believe, and work really hard to promote them.
Wow!
Right, so we should get started right now.
That's Borges. That's Talan Ukbar and Orbis Tertius. We just need to fabricate a world that's coherent and appealing and push it.
Yeah.
Whenever we talk about Star Trek, Lionel brings up Borges.
I do. I'm sorry.
It drives me up a wall.
Sorry. It's like an old married couple. There he goes again. He's talking about fucking Borges again. I knew he was going to say Borges. There he goes. But
there's the motto.
Yeah, but you could.
I love recording.
You can make your Velvet Sun. You can make your Velvet Sundown.
I love recording. I'm going to keep doing it. I know a lot of other people love recording. They're going to keep doing it. Yeah. The reward's going away, and people need to get paid. Yeah, it gets really hard. But Jonathan's also right. It's like, this is also a fairly new thing.
Well, and it as you're saying, I mean, it sounds like you two. Oh, that was cool. Look what you did there.
What do I do?
Opposite the two.
Oh, we were both drinking at the same time.
Synchronized drinking. Woo. That's the next TikTok sensation. So,
You heard it
But
here first.
we have so many good ideas.
We do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We
Anyway,
interrupted you.
no. But so, I mean, Lionel, you're voicing you're giving voice to the interest of the audience, and Jim, you're giving voice to the need of the creative to create.
Yeah.
And so, and the where those two have met is where the whole sort of commerce piece comes in. But you know, Jim, you saying you're not going to stop recording because you love it. Why would you stop doing something you love?
Right.
You're not going to
because I
stop doing
can't
it just
afford it.
because. Well, there's
Yeah.
how much of your time you can spend doing it.
Right.
That's a problem because maybe you can't play as fast as you used to because you're not playing as much or something. But so I and Lionel, it makes me really, really sad to hear you say. I recognize the gravity and the truth in that, but it makes me very sad to hear you say you just don't fucking care about recordings anymore. Is that what you said?
No, I doubt them all. I doubt them all. But I'm just me. I care about I care that there's a human being behind the song. I think, and something that we've discussed a lot on this show too, is when you listen to a piece of music, how much of it is the notes coming over the speakers, and how much of it is the construct in your mind of what you know about the artist and what you know about this musical genre and your feelings about it. So there's this whole nimbus of associations in your head. But a really important part to me is authenticity, that I care about the person behind the song. I care about Jim Infantino. I care about Joan Baez. I care
Or
about
David Bowie. I mean,
David Bowie.
Very important, because he was right. It was important that he made the music, and we did care about what he thought.
Right. And it's authentic music. Whereas if I'm just getting a ribbon of audio, now there's some times when you want a ribbon of audio. I just want dub music to study by. I don't know, man. That sounds really bleak.
Well, that's not how kids are thinking of music either. Now we've just cut Jonathan right out of the conversation.
Okay,
now,
sorry.
Lionel, let me tell you.
No, I want to hear Jonathan.
I'm listening. I'm listening. This is good.
Well, I was just talking to my eldest child, and they were saying that they're really into Lovejoy and Grimes, and they know that Lovejoy's got a problematic personal habit in his relationships, and that Grimes has got some other problematic characteristics. But they were like, "But I just love their music." But they're into the whole thing, they're into the person, what they're saying, what they're going through. They don't necessarily follow them like a leader, but they're into the drama. And the songs seem to be a gateway into the drama because they can relate it to their own personal drama.
Yeah. So if we sort of flip this around a little bit, I don't think anybody is developing a relationship with Velvet Sundown or any other sort of robot artist. They might develop, like, Todd Mackover, who had his robot opera. They might have a relationship with Todd Mackover. He composed it for the Queen of Monaco's wedding. It's quite the thing. But he's interesting to people.
Right.
But it's not the artificial characters, as it were. So, I think if there is a person there to develop a relationship with, then that becomes, that's fuel for the fire. That's the thing that inspires people to sort of stay tuned in. So even if, name your favorite artist, even if your favorite artist isn't writing all their music, and that's also been there.
That is
lots
also
of
very
examples
true.
of
Yeah.
that. People have relationships with the artists.
Right. The songwriting may be what often gets replaced, especially in certain genres.
Let's take, as you mentioned at the top here, Kiri Takanawa. Okay.
Well, I don't know. So that's why I mangled
it's fine.
Her name, possibly the greatest soprano ever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, from New Zealand.
I mean, oh my, like a voice like an angel.
And did I mention mastering? We're not talking about mastering at all. I mean, but But for our listeners,
Oh.
Jonathan Wyner has mastered some incredible records. So anyway, go.
So Kiri, I mean, what if I could feed all of Kiri's stuff into an AI and generate probably pretty easily her singing any number of arias from any number of operas that she never actually sang? Would you be willing to listen to that? Would you be interested in listening to that beyond the mere novelty phase of it?
Would you know you're listening to it?
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, and
yeah.
today the answer is you can't do that. You could not. I mean, anybody who doesn't really is not very familiar with music or very sophisticated in their musical vocabulary, they might sort of think that an actual recording and an AI output, they might confuse the two. But if you just point out to a couple of things, I mean, the AI output of a Kiri corpus, a data set, it would not generate anything that was believable. It would not. Today.
Challenge
we're not
accepted.
We're not there. I'm not saying it's not going to get there.
I'm not sure there are limitations and curves and stuff that may prevent it from getting much further than we have it now. We'll throw everything we can at it to try to get more, but we'll see.
I mean, part of what's really interesting about this technology, I think, is how it is an abstraction. There are multiple layers of abstraction of this sort of complex thing that we call music. There's a GPT layer, there's this thing called the diffusion layer, and then there's a codec which reconstructs the audio from the data. And each one of those steps has a lossiness about it. And it's not just audio. The musical idea gets kind of dumbed down so that the data can adequately reconstruct something that sounds kind of like what the original thing was.
Wow.
It's amazing that it works as well as it does. But in that all that abstraction, stuff gets lost. There's a level of detail. If you listen to the output of these generative AI systems and listen for rubato. And if for those who don't know what rubato is that are listening, it is when a singer holds a note just a little longer than you thought they were going to, and then they leave a little more space, and then the next entrance is delicious. It's that sort of aspect of expression that gets the little hairs on your neck sort of standing up. I haven't heard an AI system do that. That's hard. That's like the little details. When you're mixing a record, Jim, and you get the first 90% of the balance done in the first 30 minutes, and then you spend the next 2 weeks getting the last 10%. Right?
No, with me they just give up. They're just like, it's not. That's fine.
I'll send you a bill. We're done.
Yeah, get out of here. Yeah. No, let Wyner work on that. I can't do anything more.
And then when you leave, I'm like, oh, Jim, Jesus. If only.
I can't fix the mix, Jim.
I am grateful. I am grateful for you and truly for all the music that I get to spend time with. It is a great joy.
It is really. I don't know how to describe it. It is a huge pleasure to sit there and listen to you work on an album of mine, which of course I'm in love with at the time. And then things come forward and the whole thing, the colors all change, but just a little, and just until they're kind of finished, like you didn't even know when you brought the mixes that they weren't ready until you sit there and hear them become ready. And I know that it's a privilege now. I don't actually work that way, but that has been a real treat for me.
Thank you.
That sounded like a stopping point. I mean, this is a little early for us. So, okay, is there something else we can talk about?
Well, I mean, it's all.
Oh yeah. What is? Well, yeah.
I always feel like I fail at answering this question, partly because there's so many possible answers, and also I become a little bit like a deer in the headlights when when asked to remember that kind of detail. But I will throw some things out. There's a singer-songwriter named Lizzie McAlpine.
Yep.
I love what she does. I really do. Very moving. And her command of both sort of metaphor and the way she voices the stories that she's telling. Fantastic.
I need to take a note.
There's a record by a fellow, I don't know if you know Dietrich Strauss.
Yeah, I've heard the name.
Yeah, I love his work. I've gone back to listening to his record. It came out a couple years ago, just because I enjoyed it so much. Today, when I was actually tuning the playback system over at school. So today, I pulled up a bunch of the tracks that really test the. There's something about each one of these examples that's superlative or kind of a prototypical sort of sonic expression. So one of them, Sea Change by Beck.
So good.
Man, and there's some things that you learn by listening to that record about what's getting into your brain that immediately it's like, okay, I understand the environment I'm in. Soul Coughing, Ruby Vroom.
I have their, what is it, 25 or 30 year anniversary vinyl. And I don't have a record player, so I'm kind of screwed. Just feel like I want to hang it on my wall.
Two fabulous albums.
I've got the poster from the gig last year there. Roadrunner,
we went
right over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was amazing. There? Sebastian, we were probably there at the same time. Roadrunner. Was it a Roadrunner that you went to?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
There's that. Beyonce, in particular, there's a track called Partition that is absolutely fascinating from a musical and sonic construct. It's just like, wow. The low end in that track. If you've never heard it, like put on your headphones and just get ready. Let's see, what else?
I have one for you if you haven't heard it. I'm teaching songwriting, sort of private practice. And I have a student. So far, I haven't really announced it yet, except right here. And she brought me a song. I'm sure everyone has heard this except me, and it blew me away. Alison Russell, Persephone. Have you heard of Alison Russell? Sort of country.
Where's she from?
And I don't know. I don't know anything about her. All I know is it's an almost perfect song.
You know what? I'm going to use
Persephone.
This
and I don't know sonically it's beautiful, but I was listening to the lyrics, the construction of the story, the narrative, all the stuff that I was talking about with a student, and it's dead on. It's so good. It does all the things a great song should do, and it's not about a truck, and it's not about a ranch.
Road. Yeah.
It's not about a gravel road.
Yeah.
It's not about a fishing stream, and it's not about a him or her and boots, It's a complex story.
The only person who can pull those songs off in a way that I really enjoy is Brad Paisley, because he's always so full of irony and sarcasm.
Last name is Paisley. So,
right,
please.
Right.
A question though. So you're tuning the system, and you brought along Ruby Vroom and Sea Change, you're saying, as part of the tuning process?
Yeah.
And why? What is it about Sea Change that helps you tune a system?
So I know these recordings intimately, and there's some things that when they are portrayed in proper proportion, it heightens the emotional response. So in the case of Sea Change, actually Paper Tiger, second track on the record, starts with a tom fill.
Yes,
which has this low frequency resonance to it. And if there's not enough top end, it doesn't have impact. If there's not enough low end, it doesn't sort of almost make you feel like your speakers might be about to blow up. And then when Beck's voice comes in, it's so resonant. I believe it was Nigel Godrich who worked on that record, the engineer. And it's, again, if the
I'll be
system's
right back
right,
and tell you. Hold on. But keep talking.
cool.
I'll just grab the
Yeah.
album.
So it's it's got clarity and warmth, and the voice almost sounds shrouded, but doesn't quite. And also the proportion of placement of the vocal compared to the accompaniment. There's a moment in the first chorus where the strings really threaten to completely obliterate the vocal.
Yeah.
And they get within this much of doing that. So for a system to be true, it has to sort of be able to be flexible enough and articulate enough to sort of for all of those things to happen. You know what I mean? So and when people who are audiophiles that speak in sort of more abstract language, they talk about soundstage or they talk about tone or whatever. For me, ultimately what's interesting about any of this is how the music is voiced and what the emotion, how it lands as a result. So, that's the Beck record. Ruby Vroom, there's a chromatic bass line that starts is not Chicago, or there it is.
Yeah, it is Chicago. It's not Chicago.
And it's like totally even up and down Sebastian's bass. And if there's anything weird about the low end and one note speaks more than another, immediately it's told you something about the room.
Oh.
In that show at Roadrunner, Jonathan, didn't Sebastian remind you of Terry Gilliam's character in Life of Brian, or the hermit who's been sleeping in a cave? The way he was like dancing around on the stage. He was the most animated member of the band and the oldest. It was fantastic.
That's a great description. I mean, and he, I don't know how else to describe Sebastian. He is singular.
And then and then the Beyonce partition, you're saying, has like the spectacular bass in it.
It's not just the low end. It is the way the low end. There's an architecture to the way the music presents, where the low end is enormous, like bigger than you ever thought that bass could be. And yet, Tony Maserati was the engineer who mixed that. And he managed to filter everything in the sort of tonal instrument grouping, including the vocal, to filter it in such a way that it feels like there's no hole, but there's complete separation between the voice and whatever else sort of lives in the middle and holds up the harmony. It is masterful. And if something is out of proportion, it's not quite right. It doesn't quite land. So it's like, I guess it's like looking at a great sort of Ansel Adams print versus a bad reproduction. It's like, I kind of get the idea, but
the idea is not going to cut it in the mastering studio. It's kind of a little more granular than that. I mean, a lot more granular than that.
And also, it sounds like it has to be a piece with which you have to be very familiar with on a lot of different settings. Like you start to understand it from 360 degrees. You listen to it on headphones. You listen to it through your car stereo. You listen to it through this and that. And after a while, you just have an inherent like reference in your head, so that as soon as you hear it coming from any system, you're like, oh yeah, or we're really close. Like we're in the ballpark here, or something like that. It's interesting. I love Sea Change. I love review.
I'm weird in that I've listened to so much music thinking about it in a very specific way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In a generally, environments that are truly revealing. And so, I've had a ton of practice doing this.
I was very aware of that when I was there and you were working on one of my records, is that it's like two people looking at a landscape and seeing two completely different things in some ways, because I'm saying tree, pond, building, and you're like, you're looking at the frequencies, you're looking at a certain color green, you're looking at a certain reflection. It always seemed to me through our conversations that you're seeing things as waves and I'm seeing things as particles. And we're listening to the same stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and yet that's the joy of it is, and I need your story because, the sort of the artistic idea ultimately, that's where all of the integrity is. And so everything that I'm doing hopefully augments it. And sometimes I need to be reminded of that. Yeah.
That's actually a great stopping point. So I'm going to say thank you very much, Jonathan Wyner, for joining us, for kicking off the sixth season. It's just kind of languishing in obscurity here, but I appreciate your coming to talk to both.
Yeah, thank you. Come by.
Really fun. And this is the part where I play that. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, I thought you were saying something. Nope.
I heard a thing. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. I hope. I mean, it feels like we were very serious. Like, oh wait, could I tell a joke?
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I'm going to tell you a joke.
Go ahead.
This has nothing to do with anything. Okay, but there's a Hindu, a Jew, and a politician. And they've gone on a hike together. And they're out having a great day, and they make a wrong turn. They get a little lost. And the sun's going down. It's getting darker and darker, and they start to get a little worried because, they didn't bring enough food to sort of eat. They don't have a tent. They stumble on a farmhouse. So they knock on the farmhouse door. The farmer answers the door, and they say, look, we're sorry to disturb you, but we're actually lost, and we don't have a place to stay for the night. The farmer says, you're welcome to stay. However, I have a bedroom with 2 beds, so 2 of you can stay in there, and 1 of you can stay in the barn. All right. So they all sort of wander over to the bedroom. They look at each other, and the Hindu immediately raises his hand and says, I'll stay in the barn. No big deal. So he wanders out to the barn. 5 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. The Hindu, he says, look, there's a cow in the barn, and they are sacred. It would not be correct or proper for me to sleep in the same building. So the rabbi says, well, okay, go. I respect your faith and your beliefs. And so he goes to the barn. 5 minutes later, he comes back, knocks on the door. Probably can guess there's a pig.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a non-starter.
Yep.
So they look at the politician. The politician's like, okay, I'll go. So the politician goes to the barn. 5 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. It's the cow and the pig.
But where's the rim shot?
And scene.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you.
That was where the music was supposed to start. Damn.
Now I'll tell you my talking dog joke. Unless you've heard this one before, Jonathan Wyner. So this woman's driving down the road and she sees a handwritten sign by the side of the road that says "Talking dog, $40 for sale." And she's like, "Nah." And then she's like, "Okay, fine." Comes to a halt, drives into the driveway, goes in the living room. Fat guy watching TV on the couch. She goes, "Talking dog, $40?" He goes, "Yeah, he's in the back. You can go talk to him if you want to." She's like, okay. She goes out back. There's this little dog chained to a stake. She walks up to it and she goes, "You talk?" And the dog goes, "Yes, I do." She's like, "Oh my God, what's your story?" "Well, my masters knew from a very early age that I could talk. And so therefore they put me in a special training program with the federal government. And after I'd gone for a while, they trained me in certain covert operations. And I worked for SEAL Team 6 and worked for the NSA and the CIA because I could be posted in certain situations that a human being could not be posted in." He said, "But after I've spent several years serving my country, and now I'm ready just to take a break and, and enjoy the rest of my life." She's like, "That's amazing." And he goes, "Thank you." She goes back into the living room. She turns to the guy and goes, why on earth are you selling him for $40? And he looks at her and he goes, lady, let me guess, CIA, SEAL Team 6, that's all bullshit. He never did any of that.
Back to your comments about authenticity. Okay.
And scene. Funny Not Funny is produced by Jim Infantino at Slab Media in Boston. Jim Infantino and Lionel Casson are the co-hosts. Our website is funnynotfunny.net. The theme music is from the song Wheel from the album Utopia Revisited by Jim. The opinions presented by the co-hosts are ridiculous and should not be taken seriously by anyone. Our intended audience is literally nobody. If you're listening to this podcast, you should probably pause to reflect on other choices you've recently made. Please do not subscribe or leave a rating or review. It only encourages us to make more. Thanks for listening.